Hello and welcome. In this lesson, we are going to talk about fractions. At the end of the lesson, you should be able to talk about fraction and what fraction means. Be able to talk about types of fractions and convert between the various types of fractions. And you should be able to perform simple calculation involving fractions. Let's get started. A fraction represents a part of whole with a numerator, which is a number at the top, and a denominator, which is a number at the bottom. So when we talk about a fraction, the structure is that there's a number at the top, and that number at the top is called a numerator, and there's a number at the bottom. That number at the bottom is called a denominator. A fraction just has a number at the top and a number at the bottom, with the number at the top being called the numerator, the number at the bottom being called the denominator. Key terms are the numerator, which is the part considered, and the denominator, which is the total part of the whole. Let me give you a good explanation on this. If you ask for 5 notebooks from a friend, for example, you say, hey friend, give me 5 notebooks. So the total part you are asking for is 5, but the friend is only able to give you 3. That is the part the friend gives you. So out of the 5 you asked for, the friend is only able to give you 3. So what you got from the friend is 3 out of 5. That is 3 over 5. So that 3 is the part considered, the part you got, that is the numerator, while the total part is 5, which is the denominator. So 3 over 5 or 3 out of 5 is a good example of fraction, with 3 being the part considered, which is the numerator, and 5 being the total part. So a fraction it represents a part of a whole. 3 out of 5 is representing that you are able to get 3 out of 5. Fraction represents part of a whole, with the numerator, which is the number at the top, being the part considered, and the denominator, which is the number at the bottom, being the total part of the whole, the total. Types of fraction. There are various types of fractions. First, we have a proper fraction, which is a fraction whereby the numerator is less than the denominator. That is, in a proper fraction, the number at the top is less than the number at the bottom. Example is 2 over 3. You can see that the numerator, which is 2, is less than the denominator, which is 3. Then we have an improper fraction, which is when the numerator is greater than or it is equal to the denominator. That is, the number at the top is more than or it is equal to the number at the bottom. That is an improper fraction. An example is 7 over 4. You can see that the numerator is 7. It is greater than the denominator, which is 4. Thirdly, we have mixed fractions. A mixed fraction has a whole number and a proper fraction. So a mixed fraction has whole number and a proper fraction. An example is 2 whole number 1 over 3. 2 is a whole number. We have 1 over 3, which is a proper fraction. But together, 2 whole number 1 over 3 is what is known as is an example of a mixed fraction. Equivalent fraction is another example, is another type of fraction. When we say equivalent fraction, we mean fractions, different fractions that have the same value. Okay, equivalent fraction is different fractions that have the same value. E.g., 2 over 4 has the same value as 1 over 2. I'm going to explain this. If you ask 3 friends for books, right, and you ask the first friend for 4 books, and he gives you 2 out of those 4. You ask the second friend for 2 books, and he gives you 1 out of those 2. And you ask the third friend for 6 books, and he gives you 3 out of the 6. What the 3 friends have given you is more or less the same thing, because the first one gives you 2 out of 4. That is, the first friend gives you exactly half. The second friend gives you 1 out of 2. That is also exactly half. And the third friend gives you 3 out of 6. That's also exactly half. So what they've given you, even though they've given you different counts out of different parts you considered or different parts you asked for, but they've given you equivalent amounts. They've given you half each. 2 over 4 is half of what you asked for. 1 over 2 is also half. 3 over 6 is also half. So that is equivalent fraction. They are different fractions, but they have the same value. We also have like fractions. Like fractions just means fractions that have the same denominator. For example, 1 over 3 and 2 over 3. They both have the same denominator, which is 3. While unlike fractions are fractions that have different denominators. For example, 2 over 3 and 3 over 5. 2 over 3 has a denominator of 3. 3 over 5 has a denominator of 5. They are unlike fractions. Operations with fractions. We'll start by looking at the addition and subtraction operations. So if you want to perform addition and subtraction in fractions, the approach is going to depend on whether the fractions are like fractions, that is whether they have the same denominator, or they are unlike fractions, that is whether they have different denominators. For like fractions, which are fractions that have the same denominator, adding or subtracting them is very, very easy. If you want to add like fractions, you're just going to add denominators. You're not going to add denominators, you only add the numerators. If you want to subtract like fractions, just subtract the numerators. You do not do anything to the denominators. That is for like fractions, that is fractions that have the same denominator. For example, if you are trying to add 1 over 3 plus 2 over 3, you see that they are like fractions because they have the same denominator. So 1 over 2 plus 2 over 3, you just add the numerator. 1 plus 2, that will be 3 divided by 3. And 3 divided by 3 is 1. Now for unlike fractions, which are fractions that have different denominators, for you to add or subtract them, you need to first find a common denominator. For example, if you want to add 1 over 3 plus 2 over 5, they are unlike fractions because they have different denominators. So you need to first find a common denominator. Now there are different ways of finding a common denominator, but the easiest way is to multiply each fraction by the denominator of the other fractions, or for the denominator of the other fraction. So if I want to find a common denominator for 1 over 3 and 2 over 5, I will take 1 over 3 and multiply it by the denominator of the other fraction, which is 5. So I will say 1 over 3 times 5 over 5. That will be 5 over 15. That is, I multiply the numerator and denominator of this 1 over 3 by 5. That's 5 over 15. Then plus, for the 2 over 5, to find the common denominator for it with 1 over 3, I'll multiply the 2 over 5 by the denominator of 1 over 3, which is 3. So I'll multiply 2 over 5 by 3 over 3. That is 2 times 3, 6. 5 times 3, 15. So now that I've converted 1 over 3 to 5 over 15, and 2 over 5 to 6 over 15, they now have the same denominator. So I will now add the numerator. That will be 5 plus 6, 11 over 15. Multiplication of fraction. Multiplication is the simplest operation you can perform with a fraction. If you want to multiply fractions, just multiply their numerators together and you multiply their denominators together. That's just it. It's the simplest operation you can perform with a fraction. For example, if you want to multiply 2 over 3 by 2 over 5, just multiply their numerators. 2 times 2, 4. Divided by, then you multiply their denominators. 3 times 5, 15. So 2 over 3 times 2 over 5 is 4 over 15. Division of fractions. When you want to perform division of a fraction, what you do is, guys, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. I'll repeat that. If you want to perform division of a fraction, what you do is that you're going to multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. For example, 2 over 3 divided by 4 over 5 will be the same thing as 2 over 3. Instead of divide, you now say times, then you now say the reciprocal of the second fraction. Instead of 4 over 5, it's going to be 5 over 4. So 2 over 3 divided by 4 over 5 is equal to 2 over 3 times 5 over 4. So you have multiplied by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So multiplying is, like I said, very easy to do. 2 times 5, that is 10. 3 times 4, that is 12. That's 10 over 12, which can be written as 5 over 6 as well. To talk about how you can write it, why you can write it as 5 over 6 later in this slide. Simplifying and converting fractions. To simplify a fraction, what you need to do is you need to divide the numerator and the denominator by their GCD, that is their greatest common divisor. That is, if you want to simplify a fraction, you need to find a common number that can divide both the numerator and the denominator, preferably the greatest number that can divide both of them, that is the GCD. For example, the fraction 8 over 12 can be simplified to 2 over 3 by dividing both the numerator and the denominator by 4. Okay, so that is the GCD of 8 and 12, that's 4. So if you look at 8 over 12, if you want to simplify it, the greatest number that can divide both 8 and 12 is 4. 2 can divide both of them, so can 4. 6 can divide 12, but it can't divide 8. So 4 is their GCD. So if you divide 8 by 4, you will get 2. If you divide 12 by 4, you get 3. So to simplify a fraction, you divide the numerator and denominator by their greatest common divisor. And let me say this, that sometimes it is not easy to get the greatest common divisor straight at a go. So it's fine to take it one step at a time. That is 8 over 12. Since 8 is an even number, 12 is an even number as well. So it means that 2 can divide both of them. So you may first divide by 2, and that will give you 4 over 6. Now 4 over 6, 4 is an even number, 6 is also an even number. You can divide that by 2 again. 4 over 6 will now give you 2 over 3. It's fine to take it in steps. But if you know what the GCD is at once, which is the greatest common divisor, you can use it straight. Reciprocal of a fraction. To get reciprocal of a fraction, very easy to do. What you just need to do is you swap the numerator and the denominator. For example, the reciprocal of 3 over 4 is 4 over 3. So you just take the denominator, turn it to the numerator, and take the numerator, you turn it to the denominator. That is reciprocal of a fraction. Then fractional exponents. This has to do with indices. When you have a fraction as the exponent in an indices, it represents roots. So x to the power of 1 over 2 represents square root of x. We can also have algebraic fractions, which is fractions with algebraic expressions. That is a fraction that has a variable in it. Maybe 7a divided by 4 plus 3a divided by 4. So there's a variable a in it. It's an algebraic fraction. Or you can have 9 divided by 5a. There's still a variable there a. So it is an algebraic fraction. We can also have what is known as complex fractions. A complex fraction is a fraction that has fraction within it. The fractions within fractions are called complex fractions. For example, we have 1 over 2 over 1 over 3. So 1 over 2 is a fraction, but in this case, it is the numerator. Then 1 over 3 is also a fraction, and it is the denominator in this case. So that is, they are complex fractions. Understanding fractions in context. That is, let's try to understand fractions when they are put in context. First, fractions on a number line. As you can see, in a number line, fraction actually represents values in between whole numbers. Okay, so if I say one whole number 2 over 5, that is a number in between 1 2. It's greater than 1, but it's not up to 2. So fraction is just number in between 2 whole numbers. So 1 over 2 over 5 is a number between 1 and 2. So is 1 over 7 over 9, just a number between 1 and 2. If you have 2 number 1 over 3, that's a number between 2 and 3. And if you have 2 number 3 over 7, it's a number between 2 and 3. Even if you have 2 number 4 over 9, it's a number between 2 and 3. Okay, so fraction just represents values in between whole numbers. Comparing fractions. So compare fractions, you can convert them to equivalent fractions with a common denominator, or you convert them to decimal. So to compare fractions, it depends. If you have a calculator, it's probably easier to convert them to decimal. But if you do not have a calculator, you can convert them to equivalent fractions with a common denominator. And I said, convert fractions to make fractions have a common denominator. The easiest way to do that is you multiply one of the fraction by the denominators of the other fractions. Now, converting between mixed and improper fraction. We can convert an improper fraction to a mixed fraction. We can also convert a mixed fraction to an improper fraction. First, let's look at converting improper fraction to mixed fraction. If you want to convert an improper fraction to a mixed fraction, you need to divide the numerator by the denominator. Know that in an improper fraction, the numerator is greater than the denominator. The number on the top is bigger than the one at the bottom. So you're going to divide that numerator, which is the number at the top, by the denominator to get the whole number. Then the remainder now becomes the numerator of the fractional part. For example, if you want to convert 7 over 4 to a mixed number, 7 over 4 is an improper fraction because the numerator is greater than the denominator. So 7 over 4 is 1, the remainder of 3. So that means it will be 7 over 4 will be 1 whole number, 3 over 4. 1 is the whole number, then the remainder is 3. That becomes the numerator of the fractional part. So 7 over 4 is 1 whole number, 3 over 4. Mixed number to improper fraction. If you now want to convert a mixed number to an improper fraction, the first thing to do is you multiply the whole number by the denominator. When you multiply the whole number by the denominator, the result you get from that, you now add the numerator to it. Then you place this result over the original denominator. For example, 1 whole number 3 over 4, which is a mixed fraction, to convert it to an improper fraction, we are going to multiply the whole number by the denominator. That is 1 times 4. That is 4. Then you add the numerator to it. That is 1 times 4 plus 3. That is 7. Now this result is now placed over the original denominator. That is 7 over 4. So 1 whole number 3 over 4 is equals to 7 over 4. Applications of fractions. Fraction has a lot of applications. In cooking, for instance, you know, if you are cooking, they will say add 2/3 of a spoon of sauce to what you are cooking, or add 3/4 spoons a spoon of sugar if you are baking, for instance. So fraction is used in cooking. In finance, fraction is used a lot in measuring interest. I'll say the interest is at 3% per year or per annum. And in engineering, fractions are also used a lot in engineering to express proportion and ratios. Now let's solve some simple examples with fractions. Simplify the following. 4 whole number 5/9 plus 2 whole number 1/2 divided by 3 whole number 1/4 minus 4 whole number 1/3. These are mixed fractions. To solve them, we first convert them to improper fractions. Remember, the way to do that is to multiply the whole number by the denominator and then add that to the numerator. Then the result you get, you place it over the original denominator. So 4 times 9 is 36. 36 plus 5 is 41. So that is 41/9 plus 42 over 1/2. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. We place that over the original denominator. That's 5/2 divided by 3 over 1/3. That is 3 times 3, 9. 9 plus 1, that is 10. 10/3. Then 4 times 3, 12. 12 plus 1 is 13. 13/3. So I have 41/9 plus 5/2 divided by 10/3 minus 13/3. So to solve this, we are going to apply BODMAS. So we're going to solve the one in bracket first. There's no brackets. Then off, there's no off. Division, yes, there's division. There's 5/2 divided by 10/3. So that will be the first one to solve. 5/3 divided by 10/3. Remember, to perform division in fraction, change the division to multiplication. Then you now take the reciprocal of the second fraction. So that will be 5/2 times 3/10. Change the division to multiplication. Change the 10/3 to its reciprocal, which is 3/10. So that will be 5 times 3. That's 15/2 times 10, 20. 50/20. Both of that can be divided by 5. That will be 3/4. So 41/9 plus 3/4 minus 13/3. So these fractions have different denominators, so they are unlike fractions. So for us to be able to add and subtract them, we need to first make them have a common denominator. And like I said earlier, if you want to make fractions have a common denominator, you multiply each of the fraction by the denominators of the other fractions. So we are going to do 41/9. We multiply by the denominator of 3/4 and 13/3. We take 3/4 and multiply by the denominator of 41/9 and 13/3. We take 13/3 and multiply by the denominator of 41/9 and 3/4. So that will be 41/9 times denominator of 3/4, that is 4. So 41/9 times 4/4 times 3/3. That is the denominator of 13/3. Plus 3/4 times 9/9 times 3/3 minus 13/3 times 9/9 times 4/4. So when we perform that multiplication, we're going to have 492 divided by 108 plus 81 divided by 108 minus 468/108. So now the three fractions have the same denominator, which is 108. So we can now add or subtract the numerator as appropriate. That will give us 492 plus 81 minus 468 divided by 108, which will give us 105 divided by 108. And that numerator and denominator can both be divided by 3. I know they can both be divided by 3 because if you add two digits together, it will give you a number that can be divided by 3. If you add 1 plus 0 plus 5, that is 6. 6 is divisible by 3. And if you add 1 plus 0 plus 8, that is 9. 9 is divisible by 3. That's the test for division by 3. So 105 divided by 108 is divisible by 3. And that will give us 105/3, that is 35, divided by 108/3, that is 36. So 105 divided by 108 is 35/36. Another example, 2 whole number 4/5 divided by, in parentheses or in brackets, 5 whole number 1/4 minus 2 whole number 1/5 of 2 whole number 4/33. So again, the first thing we'll do is to convert the mixed fractions to improper fractions by multiplying the whole number with the denominator, then adding the numerator to it, then we place the result over the original denominator. That will be 14 over 15 divided by 21 over 4 minus 11 over 5 of 70 over 33. To solve this, we are going to apply BODMAS. That means we start with the part in the bracket. Clearly, there's a bracket here. Then in that part in the bracket, there is off. So we solve that off first. 11 over 5 of 70 over 33. That is 11 over 5 times 70 over 33. Performing that multiplication, 11 over 5 times 70 over 33, that will give us 14 over 3. So we have 14 over 5 divided by 21 over 4 minus 14 over 3. So we complete the parts in the bracket first. 21 over 4 minus 14 over 3. Those are unlike fractions because they have different denominators. So like I said, the easiest way to make them have the same denominator is to multiply the first fraction by the denominator of the second fraction. So 21 over 4, we multiply it by the denominator of the second fraction, which is 3. So 21 over 4 times 3 over 3, that will be 63 over 12. And then for 14 over 3, to make it have a common denominator, you multiply by the denominator of the other fraction, which is 4. So 14 over 3 times 4 over 4, that will be 56 over 3. 56 over 12, excuse me. So now that they have the same denominator, it's easier to subtract them by simply subtracting the numerator. So 63 minus 56 over 12. So now we 14 over 5 divided by 7 over 12. To divide fractions, change the division sign to a multiplication sign, take the reciprocal of the second fraction. So that will be 14 over 5 is 12 over 7, which will give us 24 over 5. It is an improper fraction that will be converted to 4 whole number 4 over 5. That brings us to the end of this lesson on fractions. In summary, we discussed the definition of fraction as representing a part of a whole. We talked about the types of fractions. We looked at the operations in fractions. Then we took additional concepts by looking at understanding fractions in concepts, converting between kinds of fraction. We looked at the applications of fractions. Then we took some sample questions. Thank you very much for listening.